Welcome to Mastered. This is your short and sweet series about the ins and outs of the music industry from some of the pros here in Canada. Today on Mastered, I was chatting with Mike Denney. Mike is currently celebrating some exciting nominations. I believe we counted 6 for the MDM team for the 2025 CCMAs. And that's just the beginning. The team has done so well over the years, have had some great success with artists. But what Mike and I wanted to get down to today was talking about the independent artist journey and how that feeds into the label experience. We did get sidetracked a few times talking through the business and the music side. Nonetheless, a great conversation that hopefully helps you to learn a little bit more about how to prepare yourself for the label side. Welcome to the Mastered podcast, Mike Denney. It's really nice to have you here. Hopefully we can have a great chat today and teach some artists a thing or two about what it's like, 1, working for a label, but 2, preparing yourself to be a label artist potentially. But thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Why don't you start with a little bit of an intro about yourself?
Sure.
Have you always been interested in the music business? How you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I've been in the music business for about 35 years. It's been kind of full circle for me. I started when vinyl was going out and CDs were coming in, and I am fortunate enough to still be doing it where vinyl is coming back in again. It's becoming popular. My area has always been in the area of sales and marketing. I worked for the major labels. I was fortunate enough to work at Sony Music during the heyday of Celine Dion and Amanda Marshall and the Philosopher Kings and all of the great domestic signings that were happening there in the early 90s. From there, I went to Universal Music Canada for 4.5 years, again in a sales role doing, of all things, classical jazz and strategic marketing, which was the big shiny tunes packages and all the rest of that stuff. But I was at Universal when Diana Krall was at her peak in the jazz world. From there, I left and went to a company called Fusion 3 Distribution out of Montreal, Just in Time Records, which was a Canadian jazz label. And that's kind of where I started to learn my chops a little bit about what MDM might become. Although when I incorporated MDM, when I had left Fusion 3, everything MDM has turned out to be is everything I didn't want it to be. And that being a recording label. We just kind of fell into it a little bit, but we're here 17.5 years later.
So what did you initially intend for MDM to be?
Just a carryover. It was the height of the recession in 2008 when I incorporated it. And I was working with a bunch of different country artists at Fusion 3, and I really liked the genre of music. Front Porch was the signing that we had years and years and years ago that got me introduced to the Canadian country music scene. And I've been fortunate to work every genre of music out there imaginable during my time at the major labels. And I just really enjoyed going out on the road and going to festivals and stuff like that with Aaron and his management team, Mitch Merritt and Carmen Choney, who are now 2 key principals for me within my world at MDM Recordings. So that's kind of where we started.
Isn't that crazy how all of these things come so full circle eventually into this, like, maybe you didn't necessarily want to be a recording label, but alas, look at what you've been able to build. That's really interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you how you got into country, but
Yeah, I was just waiting for my next corporate gig to come along, and I'm still waiting for it.
Hey, maybe that's a good thing. You didn't have to bother after a while.
Yeah.
I think before we touch on the purpose, which is giving artists something that they can work off of, basically that crash course in label world and preparing yourself for label, I think we should actually just take a moment maybe for those who want to work in the music business and the industry on that business side. Do you have any advice for those people who are wanting to work at labels, wanting to get really great core experience? Like, where do you think those people should start?
Yeah, so what I did back in the day, I started as a DJ for parties and weddings, and I really liked music. Although I don't have the abilities to play, I've tried a few times. It just never worked out for me. But my father was in sales and marketing, and I kind of was drawn to that a little bit. So I was like, how can I marry my love for music and drawing to sales and marketing? How can I do that? So I ended up going to school in Toronto for 2 years. My first year was at a music industry school called the Travis Institute, which I believe still exists out there. And then the second year, I went to a school which was brand new called the Harris Institute for the Arts. And I was in the first year that school opened, and
What?
John Harris is actually still a very good friend of mine. We stay in touch all the time. I was not interested so much in the recording side of things, that because I couldn't play, it didn't really register with me. But what the school did do was give me the opportunity to start networking and meeting industry professionals. We would do showcases and parties and stuff like that, and preparing myself to get into the music industry in the area that I wanted to get into. So I was really fortunate in that I started to meet some amazing people who were instructors at the school, and that's where it kind of started for me. And then from there, it was just once I finished with school, it was getting my resume out there and getting in front of as many people as I possibly could until the opportunities that were presented to me made sense and were financially viable for me. And in the early days, it's much like an artist. In the early days, I was barely getting by, but I loved what I was doing. And as I started to really work hard and do some pretty decent things, much like an artist career, word spreads really fast, and other opportunities started to come to me at the major labels, which is really where I wanted to be. And it took a while to get there. And there were a few setbacks along the way, but eventually I not only got to Sony Music, that's where I wanted to work, with Sony Music Canada, and I was fortunate enough to get there, and fortunate enough to get promoted relatively quickly through the system to work for a fellow by the name of Don Oates, who is still a mentor of mine today. And he was Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Sony Music, and just an all-around great guy to be around and to really learn the business with. And I was fortunate enough to work for him, and he's still in my corner today, helps me when things go a little sideways.
As it does.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that no matter what area of the industry you're gonna work in or perform in, that your network is so crucial, and finding people who are willing to invest in teaching you, even if it's outside of actual school, is so valuable. There's so much coming at you, and you have to find the people who are gonna help you make sense of it, right?
Yeah, and in the early days, I tried to go to as many showcases as I could, as many industry events as I possibly could, just to meet people and introduce myself,
Network, right?
my
Yeah.
name there. Yeah, and it's hard work, but when I look back at it now, it was the foundation for everything that I have going on today, because I'm enough in that if I don't know Jenna, I know somebody who knows Jenna who can get me in touch with
Yep,
Jenna, and
yep,
contacts like that all over the world now, which is amazing.
yeah. It's funny, you never know, this is the lame way to say it, but, like, the seeds you're planting, and that means that, like, you gotta grind it out hard when you're young, because you never know where it's gonna lead you and how it's gonna impact your career long term potentially.
Yeah, and much like an artist too, I mean, you meet the same people going up in your career as you do going down. If you're, I don't know if I could swear on this, but if you're a dick, if you're a dick on the way up, you're not going to get a whole hell of a lot of support when you really need it on the way down. So your reputation,
No.
your work ethic, everything that you bring to the table when you're on the rise up is crucial for when you need it, when you're on the right, because you will have pitfalls. You will find yourself in areas where you're unemployed and you're looking for the next gig, and if your reputation is in line and in track, you will get phone calls, you will get opportunities that will come to you.
Yeah, 100%. Um, it's funny because some of these things, it feels like, "Oh, that's so is that unique?" And then it's like, "No, no matter what industry you work in, you can't be a dick. People are gonna hate you. They're not
Yeah,
gonna have your back," you know?
exactly.
Okay. Whole purpose of Mastered is giving artists tidbits, and I'm calling them crash courses on some of these key areas of the industry. Let's be real, most artists want to be signed to a label. And if they don't, it's because they want to work really hard and do everything themselves for their entire careers. And you know, for lots of people that works out, but I think primarily artists want to be part of labels. And there's lots of folks who think they're just going to get it. And it takes a long time to be prepared to be ready to put yourself in front of a label. So why don't we start with that foundation? What do you think that strong foundation is for independent artists to be building as they start to work on their careers and grow?
I think if I look at our current roster right now, all four of them are going to do it regardless if they're signed to a label or not. And that makes a big, big, big difference. I found Jess on Facebook when she was 19 years old. And she was a YouTube artist at that point, and dabbling in her own music. And she had put out a couple of videos that had both had over 500,000 views. And once I met her and started conversations with her about, the direction that she was going and where she wanted to go, it was quite evident to me that she was going to do it regardless. And if it stayed in the YouTube vein and it went that way, it was going to go that way. Fortunately, she took a chance on me years and years and years ago, and we're still working together today. And she's evolved into one of the smartest artist business people that I've ever worked with. Not only as an artist, she understands her fans and all of that, the image, the branding, and all the rest of that stuff. But I could put her in any boardroom in the world, and she would be able to hold a conversation about her. So that's part of it too. Is you don't need to know the business inside out, but you better have a pretty strong identity, strategy, and plan about where you're going and what you're doing. You need to want more than what I do. The minute you don't, where I'm working harder than you do, or a label is working harder than you, or the artist manager is working, it's never going to work. It's never going to work. We can bring you short-term opportunities, but if you're not given 150% every single day, it just doesn't work. I look at Josh Stump was out there doing his own thing, and he's brand new, and we're first single, and everything is brand new, and it's like kid in a candy store right now, which is so refreshing and great. But he's a hard worker, and he works at his talent, and he works at his craft. Savannah Jade, same thing, exceptionally hardworking, talented, just a hardworking gal, and it'll happen. Each one of those artists is gonna have a different route to where we get to, but that's okay. And then, the Red Hill Valleys, they've been doing it for years, long before I signed them. And what we tried to bring to the table was just elevate everything for them. And again, it's a little bit of a different route for them than what it is for Savannah Jade versus what it is for Josh versus what it is for Jess. But the thing they have in common is work ethic on the back.
What do you think when you look at like the landscape of independent artists? And I can only imagine your inbox and the pitches that come in. But when you're looking at the landscape of indie artists right now across Canada, what do you think something that I don't want to say that they're not doing well or not doing right, but what's something they're discounting that they're not working on, or something that feels like a large maybe group of them aren't doing that they should be?
Well, it's an interesting question because there's not everyone is going to make it. And I hate to say that, but that's the reality of this business. Even in artists that we have signed over the years that I believed in wholeheartedly, for some reason, some of them just didn't make it. And, was it songs? Was it lack of talent? Was it something? Who knows? So, I mean, as far as working on it, if you're out there and you're playing live and you're writing and co-writing and networking and you're doing vocal lessons and you're doing all of the things that you need to do to become the best at your craft, one of two things is going to happen. One, you're either going to get completely burnt out, frustrated because things aren't happening fast enough and you'll give up, or things are going to start happening and it'll get to a point where it's a full-time job, even though you may not be generating the type of revenue that you need, but it's all that you can focus on. And then at that point, hopefully people like me or other people in the industry are going to start to take notice, whether that's your local radio station, uh, other people that you're working with that are on your team, whether it's social media people or radio trackers or PR people. This industry is very small. And when things start to happen with an artist, where an independent artist, where they're bubbling under, we all find out very quickly, which is great. And that opens up the opportunity to start having discussions about, where do you want to be? What do you want to do? Is a label important to you? And some artists it's not, and it isn't. And that's totally fine. Um, I think you're only going to go so at some point you're going to need some sort of a label or team support thing. You just can't do it. It's too vast. I say this to every artist that we sign. It's like, I want you concentrating on the creative. I don't want you concentrating on boardroom stuff and meetings and all the rest of that stuff. I want you working on your craft and getting better at your craft, and we'll handle the back end stuff to get you to the next level or to get you wherever we want to go collectively as a group.
Is that where you ask people to, because there's a lot of independent artists who are so used to doing all that stuff for themselves too, who kind of hold that business side a little bit. Do you ask them to give it up, or do you give them space to say, "Okay, well, I still want my hands in this and this, and I trust you to take care of all of this?" Like, how do you balance that for some of those folks?
It depends. It depends on where the artist is. When we signed Jess, it was completely overwhelming to her to go from doing everything herself to all of a sudden having a team of 14, 15, 16 people who were looking after everything. It took a couple of years for her to, one, meet all the people and spend time with them, two, develop a working relationship rapport with them, and three, trust them with her career. And that fell a lot on me in the early days because a lot of what we were doing was just me and her. With somebody like Josh, where he's so young, he's just putting a lot of trust into us. He did his homework before he signed with us to make sure that we were legit and that he wasn't going to get screwed and everything. But he's learning rapidly in terms of just how this business works in a short period of time. A short period of time, understanding from the time I met him to the time we put out the first single was 555 days. We took our time with him for two reasons. One, he didn't have a passport, so we couldn't take him to Nashville to go right, and we had to wait for that. And then two, it was like, you can only be new once. So what you've done as an independent artist that got our attention is amazing. But now when we really push the button on go, everything in your back end has to be ready to go. So that was getting 4 songs done and recorded. That was creating his brand guide. That was shooting the first music video. That was getting the first photo shoot done. That was heading out on a 3-week radio tour coast to coast with myself to get him introduced and get him into the boardrooms and the radio stations and streamers and all the rest of that stuff, to get everything ready to go for when we pushed go. And that was an eye-opener for him. For me, it's just second nature. I've been doing that for the entire 17 and a half years I've been running the label. I go on every radio tour for the first one for every new signing because it's a priority to me, and I want to make sure that the industry folks that we're talking to and dealing with understand that, I want it to be a priority for them as well too. But you need to be
Yeah.
ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also are probably teaching the newer artists so much on the go too that w what you said, it's second nature, but so new to them, and they're kind of thinking about these things as you're approaching these conversations and introducing them to folks that they're like, "Ah, I need to take note of that for later." So it's nice that you kinda go in there early too to give them that.
For Josh, he had never been really outside the province of Saskatchewan. So, in 3 weeks, he went coast to coast. And every day it was like, oh my God, like, this is incredible. This is great. And I'm like, this is hard work. Wait until you
Yeah.
really get going. But fortunately, he had that thing that we heard immediately as far as a song that was sent to us. And by us, I mean, it was me and Jess in a car in Red Deer, Alberta, when we first listened to him. And we just knew. We knew it was going to work. And here we are.
Yeah.
Was he ready to go? No. Was he doing his own thing as far as writing and recording and starting his own music festival and playing the local circuit and yeah, he was doing all that stuff. All that stuff.
That's some of the right things for artists who have like, to do as well when they don't have that team, right? Is to start to build it and figure it out yourself a little bit, right? Because he had some of that as much as it was very local, probably.
You have to make some mistakes too along the way to learn. Hopefully they're not super expensive financial mistakes, but
Yeah.
you got to work through that. You've got to find your sound, find your image, find your brand, find what is it that drives you to want to keep doing this. Because once, the first single is over and it's all fun and games and then the hard lifting starts. Like for us, we're top 15 with Josh right now. I think we have a really good shot at going top 10 in the next couple of weeks, but the heavy lifting really starts on the second song because now it's like, we don't have artist development radio programs to rely on. We have to push you through that pile. And we went through this with Savannah Jade. We did really well on the first single, and the second song didn't do as well because we were up against immense traffic in the marketplace. And that can be hard on an ego, on any artist ego. And we try to prepare them as best we can for that we're in this for the long run. And it's going to take more than one song to get you going, unless you get really, really lucky like we did it with Tyler Joe Miller, where it just everything fell into place when we released his early material.
Sure. Yeah. Um, wha I've started yapping on the internet a little bit. And one video I made on TikTok was about songwriting and songwriters and artists who have like just not written enough songs for any of the shit they're putting out to be good. What do you like? You were talking about like Josh and his first single and having those development programs and having music that's good. What do you think about some of these artists who are going to radio with their independent music early as opposed to getting songs in the right place? Because people like jump to radio and they want to like get in there, right?
Well, I think one of the biggest blessings and one of the biggest curses that's happened to the Canadian country music scene and other genres of music is Sirius XM. So I think a lot of the reasons why these young independent artists are jumping is because Sirius XM's mandate is to support independent up and coming Canadian country artists. We're talking about channel 171 here. If you get on there and you get 3, 4, 500 spins over the life of that cycle, the revenue that you generate allows you to stay in the game. Doesn't allow you to get any better if your song's not there, but it does allow you to stay in the game. This is why I think a lot of independent artists are rushing to get songs out there when they're not really at the level that they need to be at. It's not there, but they get caught up in the faux success of money being generated from their songs because of the support of Sirius XM. Now, I'm not slagging Sirius XM. It's an amazing thing and an amazing revenue stream. It's not real. Like when I see artists, I have pet peeves when I see artists, independent artists post about Yangaroo and they're number 10 on the Yangaroo DMDS download list. Well, that's not a real list. That is the radio stations doing their job of downloading your song so that they can get it into the music meeting. I love them to death, and I'm not sure that breaks careers. And I know that they're trying to make some adjustments as well too in terms of how they're programming that station, bringing in some live DJs and doing some other things, which is amazing. And I think that needs to happen as opposed to what it was, which was just a 24-hour jukebox a couple of years ago. You know, our motto within our camp is best song wins. And if you can't write it and we can go find it and it's better than anything that we got in the toolbox, then we're gonna go record that song.
How do you think artists should be building a fan base? Because, question comes from me personally, because a few years ago, I was learning about the industry or the label world, and one of those core things is that seem to make artists attracted to labels is, do you have your local fan base? Do you have the people who are going to buy the ticket, no matter who else does in another town? One, what's your thoughts on that? And two, how are people building a fan base now, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think you have to have regional support, whether it's the regional radio stations in your hometown, support from the clubs, support in terms of knowing the club owners to potentially get you on the opening slots of tours and things that come through so that you can get in front of people and start building and connecting with fans and all the rest of that stuff. That is crucial. I mean, obviously, social media plays such a huge part now in artists' careers, no matter what level you're at. It is a necessary evil. You need to, if you can afford it, find a good social media strategist and a digital media person who can buy some boosted advertising for you and really drill down. One, making sure that you're capitalizing on all the trends that are out there that are relatable to you as an artist. And two, somebody to make sure that when you do those boosted ads, whether it's for a new song or a new video or just any other content, that it's being directed in the right direction to people who are going to engage in what you're posting. Because very few independent artists that I know can afford to go coast to coast on a cross-country radio tour because it's expensive.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
again, I say that, and as I'm saying, as it's coming out of my mouth, the other thing that I do see with independent artists almost daily is that they spend so much money on the production and the recording process that they don't budget for advertising, marketing, and promotion. And without that, you're dead. You're dead. So if you're going to go into the studio and you're going to cut songs One, make sure that they're the best songs that they can possibly be, but you need to put some sort of a strategy and plan together in terms of what the next 18 to 24 months is going to look like for you from all angles: promotion, marketing, advertising, videos, all live performance stuff, and go after those targets to make those things happen. And if you're lucky enough and if you've got the talent, then things are going to start to happen regionally. And when they start to happen regionally, that's usually when guys like me are alluded to it and can then augment what you've already started to build.
We've had the independent versus major label conversation on TikTok, but what do you think independent labels are looking for?
Well, we're all looking for this. We're all looking for the same thing. I'm looking for artists that I can find, sign, and develop to have careers. And I think the major labels that's what they're trying to do as well too. They just want to throw more money at it first and foremost than I can. And they want the return on the investment way quicker, which is probably how we ended up in this podcast. And the comment that I made after the post that you made, if that's what you want to do is be signed to a major label, like there's nothing wrong with that if you're in a position and you've got the talent to be able to do it. But understand that if somebody decides, radio stations, streaming editorial teams decide that they don't want to support your song, and you're probably going to get dropped a lot faster on a major label than what you will on a smaller independent company like mine. When we sign new acts, I've had the same conversation for 17 and a half years. Like, this is going to take 3 to 5 years to get us from where we are today to where you're either breaking even or in a position where you're making enough money to have a career. So are you in a position to be able to hang on that long? Because it's not easy. Like, you've got to carry a job, like, and have flexibility in your job to be able to drop everything and go when you get a phone call saying somebody just canceled as the opener. We need you to be in here in 24 hours. Can you do it? I guess if you're going to sign a deal, whether it's a management deal or a recording deal, don't do it just for the sake of being able to brag to your friends. Do your homework. Make sure that the company that you're signing with is vested in who you are as an artist and on the same page as you as an artist and where you want to go. And that takes time. You need to have those meetings and those conversations, because if you make mistakes in the early days and you do choose the wrong person in the wrong camp, that could harm you for the rest of your career, because you're stuck in some bad deal that just never ends. So always find a good entertainment lawyer when you're getting into those situations. And even though you may not understand all of it, a good entertainment lawyer will be able to decipher a lot of that stuff as well too. But just don't jump into it just for the sake of saying I got a deal, because that's the kiss of death.
That makes sense. It's interesting because working in the Ontario music community, I don't know if you think this comes to mind for you at all. There's actually lots of that conversation constantly. And, I think when your community is so tight, like the Ontario music community is and can be, there's a lot of noise that comes in, and people start to think like, I need to be looking for this because everybody else is, as opposed to, am I ready for that right now? Is this something I should be investing in? What if I care about going on a small tour by myself and building up my live show? And what if I want to be doing that right now and I'm not ready for a label? What if I want to record
Yeah.
some music by myself?
I
You
mean,
know?
and it's an interesting dichotomy, because, when I see stuff that comes across my social media feed, um, and I'm like, why didn't we get that? Like, why did we not get that opening slot? And then my brain goes to, Mike, it would have cost $15,000 to get that slot or more. We're not ready for that slot. Let's keep building. And I say this to our guys, is like, let's keep building the radio picture. Let's keep building the streaming picture so that we can get you to a position where you're generating revenue and income. And you don't have to play that lousy 12 o'clock p.m. slot at a festival on Thursday when the gates open at 11:45 and nobody cares. And a lot of the opening slots that are happening on tours across this country, they don't care. They don't care. Like, I saw an interesting post, and I thought that this was This person as a country music fan was either completely out of touch or this is the reality of the Canadian country music scene. But they announced all of the first wave of performers for Kelowna for the
Oh, yeah.
thing. And
Yep.
one of the comments was, I don't know any of these people. This is arguably the top tier artists of the Canadian country music scene, and somebody posted that. As a Canadian,
I think I saw that too, actually.
I was flabbergasted. I'm like, there's no way you can't not know any of these artists. Now, maybe she's obviously not invested in it the same way that I am or the same way that you are. And obviously a casual listener, and she probably knows the song. She just hasn't made that connection between artist,
Yeah.
song, and fan. But that's the problem. We don't have that infrastructure in Canada to the level that we need it to be able to create a true star system unless the acts leave Canada. Or I can't even, Jess Moskaluk does really well in Canada for a Canadian gal, but she's on that list of people that this commenter or person said, I don't know any of these artists. That was fascinating to me.
It is interesting. What do you think is missing? I mean, we don't have that ability to like make stars, or it's so infrequent and people do have to leave the country.
Yeah.
Why? Because in my head sometimes I'm like, if you think about Canada versus the United States, we're like a fraction of the size physically as the United States. So we have like that just is such a smaller scale, period.
Yeah.
But what is missing from that infrastructure, do you think?
Everything. And I shouldn't say everything. That's a real general statement. We're really fortunate in this country to have an amazing funding system that helps get artists up off the ground. We're at this disadvantage at terrestrial radio because a Canadian heavy will never get to an international power. So you're at minus the spins. We don't have dedicated television shows to the level that we need that create stars. Like if you look at what Quebec has and the ability to get artists onto variety shows and interview shows and all the rest of that stuff, they've got it. They have it. We don't have that. We have breakfast television that is on and off when they want to do it, and no other real shows that are dedicated to music and dedicated to moving the needle forward for Canadian artists. And it's I don't know if it'll ever get fixed.
No, there is a core of like thinking as a music fan when I was younger of being able to turn on much music and try to run the massive stars. But every day a Canadian musician was on your TV at 4 p.m. and 5 p.m., like those things are now missing. And it's just, how is our entertainment industry not set up for these things to continue to succeed over time is like part of the issue, right?
I think, but part of that is that everything is changing so fast as well, too.
Totally. Yeah.
Like that plays into it as well, too. It's just, it's not easy. It's not an easy problem to fix, and it would cost millions and millions of dollars. And there isn't that kind of money that's out there. So, if you look at the United States and just, sheer population, be the size of California, maybe.
I think so.
Still have 49 other states that you can go to and get on the radio and get on television and all of that stuff. And I just find like when we go outside, like when we go to Australia with Jess, and there's just way more media opportunities, and they're just way more embracing of music, not because we're waving the Canadian flag, just because it's a great song. And you see that in the UK as well too, where they know every word to every song, even those songs that weren't singles. Like it's crazy when you go into these other countries to where country music is happening, and then you come back to Canada and now it's 15 to 20 of your biggest acts in the country, and you get somebody posting, I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Kind of depressing.
Yeah. Super motivating conversation for the independent artists.
Yeah.
Lots to look forward to, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but if you're going to get into this thing,
you better fucking love it.
Yeah, you have to love it. You have to work hard, and it has to be the only thing that you want to do. 24/7, 365 days a year. And the shitty days are far greater than the great days. And that's on the label side as well too. And for people like myself who are just, you're dealing in the business of marrying music, culture, and business together. And it's hard, like
Yep.
drawing that
Yep.
line between music and business and trying to make it all work together. But if your songs are good, great songs will always make it through. Always make it through. And slow and steady, at least from my point of view and everything we've done with MDM, slow and steady wins the race. And if you're doing the right things, eventually you will catch the traction and you will go. And it will happen for you. And it can happen really, really fast. Just gotta be
Absolutely.
ready.
Yeah. The overnight success that took 10 years.
Amen to that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's leave it on a good note. What are you looking forward to? Like, what do you get excited about looking at the future of Canadian talent and Canadian country musicians and all those artists that are out there trying to make it right now?
Opportunities. I mean, if you look at, there's, I look at Quebec and what's going on in the province of Quebec right now with English country music, and that to me is really exciting. There's opportunities and festivals that are popping up for the French, first language French people that are giving opportunities to English acts, Canadian acts to go into the province and play. That to me is really, really exciting. I think now more than ever as independent artists, you have the ability to control your own destiny a little bit more than you've ever had as well too. That's really exciting because it allows you to build your own brand, your own image, and do things on your own terms. Maybe that never catches the attention of people like myself, but if you're doing the right things and out there, slogging away, it can get you to a point where you've got a legitimate career and you can pay the bills doing music because that's what everybody wants to do, including myself, is to make a living from music. How great is that? But I think there also needs to be realistic expectations mixed in there as well too, and it does take time. It takes time, and you need to be committed to
Absolutely.
doing the work and laying the groundwork and the foundation to be able to get to where you really want to get to, whatever that is. And it's different for
Yeah.
every artist. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Just congrats. I think MDM has at least 5 nominations this year at the CCMAs. You've got Just for Female Artist of the Year. You've got Management Company of the Year. What am I missing?
A video for the year, video of the year for video
Okay.
producer for Savannah J, creative team for Jess for Life for Me, and producer for Dan Swimner for Savannah J. So this was a little bit of a rebound year for us as we kind of revamp, some pretty significant roster changes.
Mhm.
And we're back to releasing music and headed in the right direction. So it's great. Nice to be
Yeah,
back. And it was nice to get Jess's nomination. So everything for her is kind of lined up to our plan. And we took a year off and tore it down to the studs and put it all back together again. And now we've got that nomination and the largest tour she's ever gone out on. I think it's 8 weeks. That starts immediately after CCMA, so it's pretty exciting. So it's good.
so exciting. Lots of good things
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
And just reminded everybody that you have said slow and steady wins the race. So you got to trust that when it's time to slow down and rebuild, it will produce good things too.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard.
People don't work in the music industry because it's easy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you got it. We've been through it twice where we were, on top of the world there and then all the wheels fell off and we had to rebuild it again. And then we just went through it again, but it's part of the business and that's how things roll. And you learn a lot about yourself, not only about the business and the changes of the business and all the rest of that, but you learn about if you really want it, then you'll figure out a way to get it back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Failure is not an option. And that's the way that you have to think. And it's about a lot
Absolutely.
of sacrifice and chasing the dream.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, thank you so much
No worries.
for hanging out here and see you in Kelowna.
Yes, we will see you there.
This is Mastered by Front Porch Music. Join Logan Miller and Jenna Weishar, the hosts of CCMA-nominated On the Porch with Front Porch Music, for this mini-series podcast offering crash courses on the ins and outs of the music industry. Expert guests from across the Canadian music landscape sit down with Jenna and Logan to discuss labels, getting your shows booked, landing festival slots, A&R, social media, and so much more. Mastered by Front Porch Music is produced by Logan Miller, Jenna Weishar, and Jason Saunders. The theme song for this podcast was written, produced, and performed by Keith Hunt.